So, hey guys, I wanted to spend a bit of time and talk about this controversy that's currently going on with Bamboo. I think that potentially it's a bit overblown, and I think there's a lot of fear mongering in our community, and I feel like it's not really affecting anyone in a positive way. I think it's important to discuss these issues, and I think it's really important to keep companies accountable, especially when you're spending money on their stuff and spending quite a lot of money, especially if you're getting to the sort of higher end machines. And I think Bamboo have always been different in the community. Bamboo have always been a closed ecosystem. I think that they kind of sell it in this way. I mean, that's the whole thing with the Apple of 3D printers. Apple are not very open to third parties. That's kind of part of the definition, right? So I think that people are potentially missing this. I don't know. Essentially, if you don't know, Bamboo have released or planning to release a bunch of security features which add authentication to sending prints to your machine. So that basically means that if you want to send a print to their server sends it to your machine starts printing it. That's what happens when you're in Bamboo Studio and you're sending something to print. That in that section where it goes to their server, then goes to your machine, it needs to be authenticated. So no one can pretend to be you and send prints to your machine, or they can't, upload weird files pretending to be you, pretending to be someone else. That's pretty normal, if I'm honest. So, for some context, I work in tech. I work with development teams all the time. I'm a QA, so I have to understand how all of these systems are working very deeply, and I'm writing code to test all of these features. So I work with authentication all the time. I was kind of surprised that they haven't done this already. It seems kind of a no-brainer when you're going to be creating a system that's using, you know, your cloud infrastructure. The thing is, yes, there's the outcome of which someone sends something dodgy to your machine, but also there's the outcome where a competitor is sending massive files that are 100 megabytes big, spamming them into your system, pretending to be a bunch of different users, and completely shutting your system down, right? And I think they're doing this to avoid the news article of Bamboo machines are not secure. 10 people have received weird poop emojis sent to their printer. Um, you know, um, that would probably do more damage, especially to like the wider audience of technology, than people complaining that there needs to be authentication. So I do want to say I get why everyone's annoyed. Um, I think this should really have been there in the first place and been part of your, signing off on being able to send prints remotely. Um, so to be honest, that wasn't that great in the first place to implement it without this. Um, but I would say I think people are making a lot of assumptions. Like they're assuming Big Tree Tech isn't going to work with their stuff anymore. They're assuming that their little add-ons and the extra accessories you can get for your Bamboo machines are not going to work. They will probably not work initially, but it's not in Bamboo's best interest to restrict these technologies coming through, because it just makes people want to buy Bamboo machines more. Obviously, you could think, okay, they'll just make Bamboo versions and lock it down, but they know how the community is. People are not going to be happy about that. So I don't think we need to worry right now that this is their plan, that they're going to shut everything down. I think there's another assumption where they're thinking, okay, it's a slippery slope. The sky is falling. If they're going to start making us not be able to send our prints remotely if we're not using authentication, that would also mean they're not going to be able to let us use our machine for anything anymore. And that's going to make them, you have to pay for your spools now, and they all have to be, all Bamboo spools, or they won't let you do anything anymore. And they could, like, these are all terrible things. But their press releases and their security stuff is not indicating that this is the outcome. I think this is a lot of fear mongering. It's a lot of like this slippery slope mindset, and it gets lots of views, and it gets people angry, and it gets people talking, and that is in some ways good to get people thinking about security. But I think the way it's been talked about is as if all these things are guaranteed. And, we live in a capitalist society. Bambu Labs are not going to do anything that will not make them extra money. It would make them extra money to make all their spools only bamboo, but then no one would buy any printers anymore, especially as the 3D printing community is so open source based, and kind of the core of it has always been this sort of community mindset. And I think companies have crossed that line before and they got burnt, and they completely reversed it because people will stop buying stuff. And I think that's the case as well with this situation with Bambu. They know how the market has been before. They know what's happened before. They're not stupid. They're basically just trying to avoid a massive legal issue with authentication. Personally, I know a lot about the European laws on data privacy, and this would be a huge bunch of fines. Like, if it ended up happening where any sort of personal data was able to be accessed by a malicious party, even if that was just the name of your printer, the name of your Wi-Fi, this is sensitive information and would be a huge, expensive problem for Bambu. So that's why I was sort of surprised that this wasn't even added. So essentially, their solution is to have this Bambu Connect, which will just be an API, like a little gateway between an accessory talking to their server, to ensure with a login and password that you are you, so you can securely communicate with their server. Which is how basically any login system works for anything ever. If you want to edit your details on YouTube, or you want to edit any information, or you want to send information, or you want to add information to your Microsoft profile or your Google Drive or whatever, you have to be authenticated. Either that's you're pre-logged in your machine, or you have to log in again. Like, this is how it works. So it's obviously a bit of a weird concept when it comes to 3D printing, but we are essentially borrowing or using their servers. So if you want to use their servers, that's cool. It's cool that let us do that. That's what makes Bambu machines cool and simple. But we have to kind of play by the very basicest of rules, which I think is reasonable. So I'm not I'm not bought and paid for. I've got like 20 subscribers. I'm not an evangelist of, adding blockers, adding gateways to things, but this is kind of, for me at least, expected normal behavior for a scaling sort of cloud infrastructure, if we want to use the big words. So yeah, I think that it's not something we need to worry about. I think if Bambu start doing stupid stuff, then we should call them out. I think it's good that people have showed that they're concerned with these things, and I think we've made it very, very clear to Bambu this is not what people want. They've already come back with their own response, which was, to be honest, a bit sarcastic. That was them saying that, there's a lot of misinformation and lots of people talking stuff, which is, I think, not really recognizing the community's feelings very well. It's just kind of calling everyone stupid and calling everyone like drama mongers. So yeah, I think that was not very well communicated from them. But I would say yeah, they've added in basically the idea that you can have developer mode, which is kind of a part of LAN mode, which is if you physically connect your PC to your printer, you can send that data through a cable, which is obviously a secure connection. There's no in between. No one's gonna stick a little USB stick in the middle of the cable and steal the data. So that's kind of what they're trying to avoid. So there is the way of doing it, especially if you're a print farm or you're doing it and you already use LAN mode. That makes sense. And obviously, if you put it in developer mode, you will be able to put these accessories on that aren't through Bambu Connect. And then obviously you then have to use LAN mode, which is annoying for sure. But I think the outcome isn't going to be that there's no accessories allowed anymore. I think they're going to work with BQ. I think they're going to work with Big Tree Tech. I think they're going to work with the Panda Touch. That they're going to be able to add this stuff on. It'll just be, yeah, it'll probably just take a month or two to get the connections. They have to do the updates. They'll have to develop it in the Panda Touch stuff, but these accessories just need the this data. They're all legit companies. They're all doing good things, so they will probably just link it up, add it on as a script to just make sure it goes through Bambu Connect, and then they'll get access to the information. So it shouldn't be a huge problem. I understand why these companies are also confused, because I feel like Bambu should have probably talked to them beforehand. We should have preemptively, especially these bigger companies. Like I said, I'm mentioning Big Tree Tech and stuff. They should have probably talked to them before and said, "This is what we're going to do. Can you add this beforehand? This will then be announced in a couple of months." So then these companies can then just switch directly over to the new UI. But they haven't, which is causing the concern, which is again a fair enough concern from these companies. So I would say the way that Bambu dealt with this is a bit weird, but I think it's not something we need to worry about. There's actually also other people in the community that have a similar feeling to me. There's this guy called RC Sailors who's kind of does 3D printing, but also mostly in the way of like RC, like remote control planes and stuff like that. And he kind of discussed a little bit about how these sort of communications also happen in this community, and it happens all the time. For me, I am into the kind of the coffee community. There's also stuff like this happens all the time, where people are like, it's gonna change the industry forever. That people are not gonna be able to do it this way anymore, and it's gonna be crazy, and it's gonna make our lives terrible. But in the end, it's fine. If it's terrible, the company will fail. To be honest, your machines are not gonna be bricked. You know, your life is probably not going to change that much. You're probably just going to have to sign in a different place if you add a different accessory to your machine. That's going to be what's going to happen unless something absolutely crazy is happening. So, yeah, I just wanted to kind of say my piece, because I feel like not a lot of people have been saying this or kind of talking about how authentication works in general. So yeah, here's my little rant. It's kind of a bit of a crazy second video for my channel, but I really wanted to kind of say something. There's been some comments in my other video where people have been asking what my opinion is on it, so I wanted to put it out there. And I would really love to know what you guys think. Like, I'm totally open to be corrected, and I'm new to this community. I'm totally open to hearing opinions, stuff that's happened before. Like, I'm happy to discuss this with you guys, but I just wanted to say, like, what my initial feelings are for this. So yeah, that's it for me. The next video will hopefully be a bit more produced and on a different topic. But yeah, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe if you want to see more 3D printing stuff. And yeah, see you guys in the next one.